Hi, Calaveras County. This is Morgan Gache, CEO with the Calaveras County Chamber of Commerce. And I am so thrilled today to have Sonja Harrison Langan here from Conifer Communications. Hi, Sonja.
Hi, guys.
So this is really fitting that we're talking about technology today because I just totally flubbed and erased a call that we had gone through. And so Sonja is here to help us. Hopefully the community as a whole, but if you find yourself at home now using a lot more internet applications, forums like Zoom, like WebEx, like GoMeeting, or like I'm doing my plug for StreamYard, then it's good for us to know some basic information that she is going to provide. Sonja is brilliant when it comes to tech stuff, and there's a lot of times where I have her break things down for me. And I really wanted her to come on today to talk about some things that we're likely facing as businesses kind of in a new world. So those that are pivoting their business and finding themselves trying to do a lot more online, I wanted Sonja to be here to kind of dialogue about that. So again, Sonja, for our second time around, I'm so sorry.
We're practiced now.
We're practiced. We have this conversation down to a T, everyone. So this is perfection at its best. So my first question to Sonja is really, with an era of so many scammers and hackers, what are some of the safest practices that we can employ and some things we should look out for when it comes to hackers?
So anybody asking for personal data is not going to be good, just in general. And the biggest thing we're seeing right now is that request coming into email. And as we're processing all these things, especially if you're doing SBA loans and everything, remember, every time they ask for something, it's going to be in a secure site and it's going to be from someone you trust. If it's asked from something else, like most of the time they'll say, go to the portal and enter this information. That's the right one. Those are the right people. If they say, please send me back this, that's not who you want. That's a phishing scam. So the easiest way to check is to hit reply, because it's already in your inbox. You hit reply and look at the address it's going to. If it's your bank, it'll say like mail@mybank.com. Totally normal. If it's not your bank, it'll say your bank at gobbledygook.alphabet soup. And it will be wrong. And you go, oh, okay. So it's somebody who's gone online, taken images of my bank, and used those logos to make a really good looking email. They know my name because it's everywhere, and used it that way. That's your spammers. That's what you want to block and not respond to. And if in doubt, if it does look real, just call your bank. It might be longer wait time, especially with a lot of them doing phone banking and online banking now, or go into your online portal that you already have set up at a previous point in time. Use those things that you already trust to communicate with them. Somebody calls you and is asking for information, say, and you're not sure, say, I'm going to call you back. You call them back, not at the number they called you on, but at the number you know. And then feel free to, ask all the questions.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do.
So, something that came up in the last few weeks was I had businesses that were telling me that they were receiving calls from the IRS and the SBA and asking for personal information. And something that you mentioned before is the IRS and the SBA are way too busy.
Way too busy.
Way too busy to be contacting you. And so unfortunately, that is more than likely spam. But I love what you said, that if in doubt, just call your actual lender or call whatever connections you have.
Remember, it's always a real person on the other side. And half the time they'll be happy to hear that you took that extra step if it was real, because you're being on guard. If it was fake, now they know that something else is out there and they can help advise their other clients and customers that, hey, somebody's trying to spam us.
Yeah. Now, I asked you this before, and I'm said I was afraid of judgments, but I do have iPhones.
Yeah.
And so how protected are they? You know, because I do a lot of emailing through my phone. You know, is it bad if I'm going to click on an email, or how is that in comparison to me checking on my computer?
So iPhones are actually really secure. Apple is really secure in general. Now you can always open up a virus in anything, but it's less likely to really be a thing there. Where iPhones are always susceptible is how you set them up. So if your email is a Gmail account, both Gmail and Apple both have security layers. If it's through GoDaddy, you're using that GoDaddy layer and the Apple one. So if it's Mac, you know, if you have a morgan@mac.com, because that's the Apple one, or iCloud, and your iPhone, it's a 2 Apple layer. So it's on both sides of that coin. So it's always that pair, which is a good thing. You actually want more layers of security. But if one of those is weak, you know, it's the weakest link analogy. That's always your weak point is one of those. But in general, anything major is going to be good. Even AOL, you still have an old school AOL account, they keep those up to date.
Okay. And you mentioned something about FaceTime too.
So yeah, so when you're talking about, you know, what's the most secure way to have an online conversation? Is it Zoom? Is it, Cisco has something. Unfortunately, when you pay, they're more secure, which just in general sucks. It shouldn't be an element of how wealthy you are, whether you should have security or not. But if you need to have a 1, 2, 3-person conversation and you need to use the audio and video and be really secure, FaceTime from Apple is a really good option because Apple is really secure in that link. It treats it just like a phone call, which are really high security things. The feds look and care about phone security to a high level. Now, there are 2 elements on a FaceTime. There's the audio connection, which often uses cell, and then there's the video, which often uses Wi-Fi. Now, depending upon your settings on your phone, you can do all in one or all in the other. But if your Wi-Fi router at home is not password protected, is not secure in any way, then that's become your weakest link. So use a password when you can, and use secure networks that you trust when you can. Still, there's not a lot of people around, so you aren't likely to be hacked, but those are spots.
Yeah. Well, what about data? What about using data over your phone in lieu of Wi-Fi?
So that's you've just dropped one potential susceptibility, so that's a stronger option.
Okay.
But it does cost something again, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. What about tips or any tools that you can give us that can help us have efficient webinars and online conversations?
Well, for efficient ones, you got to talk to you and make sure everybody has the agenda and go through those business forums. But for a lack of glitching and that sort of thing, think of it like water. You want to have a lovely shower of high water pressure. So you don't want to be watering the lawn. You don't want somebody else using the bathroom. You don't want to be running the dishwasher and the washing machine at the same time. It's the same thing with internet coming into your home. You generally only have so big of a pipe. And as you peel it off to do other things, whether that's cameras, Netflix streaming in a different room, updating a game on an Xbox, all of those things are using data, and so that water, that data you have available is smaller and smaller. Now, any form you use, Zoom or otherwise, you can just Google it and see what are my minimums for a good meeting. They'll give you what they have to have, which is to function at all, and what they like to have. Generally, those are like, what they like to have is 2 times what you have to have. So one of the big things is, which doesn't, it's kind of like, well, to make a bicycle run, you need 2 wheels. But for a vehicle, it's better to have 4 wheels. You know, it's kind of that you can get more energy and more power and carry more data if you got the 4 wheels versus the 2 on a motorbike.
Gotcha.
Weird analogy just popped into my head, so not fully fleshed out there, but the idea that you might not need the Mack truck, but it's nice to have a little compact car. So the biggest thing with that is knowing what internet you have and what data you should be getting. I'm happy to take any call from a customer going, what is my plan? What am I supposed to have? And check and make sure that everything is working as it should.
Yeah.
Depending upon the type of internet you have and the connection you have, also can lead into when you should be doing calls to get the most out of it. So if you're on a fixed wireless system like Conifer and others in the area, it really doesn't matter time of day because you are guaranteed a certain amount pretty much all the time. That shouldn't be overloaded in the evening. Now I say this as that's how the system was built the day before COVID happened and we all stayed home.
Right.
So some of those networks still might be a little softer than they want because that's been a rapid deployment. Yeah. Now, things like AT&T cable networks, those are all on a trunk system. And where you are on that trunk kind of tells you how much you use. You're sharing it with everyone. It's kind of a private party line situation. Or there's only one bowl of chips, you know, everybody gets some.
Okay.
And so you're kind of balancing with everybody else. So if you can do those at times when nobody else is around, that might help. So the busiest time, even now, is still in the evening because that's where most people are watching things. They're streaming, they're watching TV. So between about it used to be between about 6 and 10, 6 and 9 was the heavy use area. It's kind of moved to about 4:30 and gone to about 11 because people are kind of sleeping in longer and staying up later, or they're the early birds and they're kind of clocking out earlier. And then once you add kids into the mix, it's all different. So the other really busy time I know for Zoom calls and stuff is in the morning between right around 8 o'clock to, right around 10 o'clock seems to be a really common time for people to have meetings, especially if they're balancing multiple coasts, because it's not too early on one, not too on the other. People who are on the East Coast have had a full morning. People who are on the West have been able to do the couple of emails and things they need to start their day and kind of devote their time to that. So those sites like Zoom and the hosting side, it's really busy about that time for us.
Sure.
So, so those
That's
things.
No, I mean, it's important. I think, you know, when I'm scheduling out meetings and stuff online, I always kind of wondered that if that certain time periods were busier attraction points than others. So
it's more of it's kind of the mean versus the mode where, you know, it's not really breaking anything, but that's there.
Yeah.
That, you know, bathrooms all flush at halftime and the Super Bowl sort of thing.
Right.
But it doesn't break the system.
Right. Well, so my question then from here is, because you are a tech company and super, super smart, and Sonja is oftentimes my go-to for really technical questions. And so that's why I really wanted to dialogue with her specifically for everybody to listen to. But I wanted to know, you know, are there any other tips, any other feedback that you can give, assuming that, you know, we're a bunch of business owners that are trying to rethink how we're doing business? What should we be looking at? What's worth our investment right now?
Well, so some of the things that are worth your investment are really simple things. Finding the right space in your house to do a Zoom call. Right now, this computer is standing on 2 TV trays, so I can stand up and feel like I'm fully presenting and you know, awake. It just took kind of moving space around to feel like you weren't looking at messy shelves, but you know, something decent behind you.
Right.
That mentally can help me feel like I'm prepared. Yeah. Making sure my laptop is charged and backed up every night because it's more important to me than ever. Those sorts of things. You know, keeping the mental space of one to the other. Those are good. As far as investing, I know people are investing in cameras when they feel they need, or a new laptop. if they feel that now this machine has to do a lot more. The biggest investment I can suggest for people is backup storage. And that, whether it's cloud, whether it's a external hard drive that you back stuff up to in the evening, whatever the system is for you. And for some people, it's having an old laptop at the ready if something breaks. Same thing with the cell phone, making sure those are backed up, because those are now become that lifeline to you.
Yeah.
You just want to make sure that it's taken care of. You know, if every night, if your work computer went down, well, everything was held on the server anyway, not a big deal. Now it's all on your laptop and you haven't backed it up for a week because you haven't been in the office. Think if you lose that. So if you can store that somewhere else, just that peace of mind. Right now, 1,000 little bits of peace of mind will help combat those 1,000 cuts that we're all trying to avoid. So it's just those little extra layers of protection. So that's one that is really helpful. Now, everybody's running their business a little differently depending upon what it is. You know, for retail establishments, it's getting a website up and doing that. Then it might be worth $100 in Facebook ads, or you know, something like a business raffle, or donating to a cause you wouldn't normally do. I know everybody is strapped, and so the idea of donating something sounds painful, but you know, that's one of those things. There's other things that I've seen people do which sounded really strange. Cafes started selling milk and eggs, well, because they couldn't make their scones anymore, but they had a contract with the, you know, with Cisco that they would have them, and what their neighborhood needed was milk and eggs, so they could sell it in a different way and still be part of the community. So it's taking, you know, it's deconstructing the things you have available to you and understanding how those can serve, you know, your customers. You know, they say Walmart is selling out of tops because nobody's wearing pants. Well, like, if you got sweaters, put them on sale. You know, like, we're all cozy at home. You know, you never know what you can do. So,
I love that. I haven't heard that yet. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious, what do you think, from your perspective, of what it's going to look like moving forward? Do you think things are going to get back to normal, or do you think things have changed?
As someone told me, normal is a setting on a washing machine. You know, they often tell women that, like, I want to be normal. There is no normal. It's always constantly changing. We talked about how, you know, web was taking, you know, software was eating the world. If we all look back 10 years and thought about how much our cell phones are in our daily lives, that would not have been normal at all. And now it's really hard to think of without it. You know, what this whole situation would have been 10 years ago or 5 years ago, and the tools we have now, it's very different. So we're always changing. We're just at a time of rapid change. And the idea of, you know, Zoom calls and that sort of thing, I think those will become more prevalent in certain ways. I know the wine industry is drastically going to change, but wine shipment is great. Finding and discovering new things is going to be there. So I think those things are going to happen. I think there's still going to be the people like our office that we're going to be there at a certain time of the day, and then we're going to go home at the end, but we're going to have more services open outside of that, for calls and offsite support, because people are going to work different hours and have more flexibility. The one thing that I think will remain constant, especially for all of us in the rural, we're all really tied to the seasons. Even when you work at a like classic 9-to-5 job or schools or anything like that, we're all really tied to the seasons with how we live our lives, and that's not going to change. So those things, you know, we're all going to still want soup and stew and in the winter and salads in the summer, and finding those commonalities is going to help us feel like everything's normal. Now, the one thing I've seen right now is we all kind of had our normal, and now there's everybody who's going at home. And I have to say, all the parents out there that are homeschooling kids and doing remote work, you guys are heroes beyond belief, because I know I couldn't handle it. then you have the essential workers who are working overtime, triple time, and they're going crazy. And then you have the ones that are at home and feel like they just can't do anything. All of those things are very different. You know, somebody said we're all in the same boat, and they said, no, we're all in the same storm. We're all in our own boat. And so communicating with each other and, you know, as we ride through this in totally different ways is even more important. And, you know, family's always going to be the thing that matters there. I know a lot of people in our area have been affected by COVID directly, of knowing somebody who's gotten sick. And there's many that have not yet. And so it's hard to kind of see those different things. Luckily, technology can be really good for us in that we can turn it on and get the news, and we can also turn it off and just watch a fun movie or do something else. So I think every time we come back to those parts, we're doing better. So
I'm in love with that analogy of, you know, we're not in the same boat, we're in the same storm.
Yeah,
and I think that's important.
It was the first thing that really resonated with me, and I went, aha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Non-tech topic, but it just, it hits me because I resonate so much with the people that are fearful because they are a compromised population. And, you know, this is a big reality, and people that dismiss it and say this is no big deal is so hurtful, and it's so scary.
Yeah.
And then I also resonate a lot with the businesses that are saying we need to open, we need to be able to do business, we need to be able to survive. And so, you know, the boats look very different, but we are in the same storm. Yeah.
One of the things with us being an essential service, we're still, you know, we're still supporting our current customers as much as we can. You know, it's more important than ever. There are things that are slowing us down. It's harder to get shipment of new equipment when the ports are closed and slow. We've taken the 477, or excuse me, the FCC pledge that we aren't going to turn anybody off from lack of payment. Because you know what, it's scary right now. The last thing you want to do is not be able to talk to people. So, you know, we're doing that. The other thing we've done is we've figured out a way to do new installs for people without coming into the home. Now we have all the gear and look like we're, I always feel like Darth Vader when I have to put on the mask and the shield and the, you know, the coat and the gloves and walk into somebody's home that I've, you know, some of these customers have been customers for a long time. So they're friends, you know, and normally I would give them a hug, and we're having to say, stay back, you know, sorry, Fluffy, I can't pet you this time, you know, so that's very different. But with that, we found ways to not enter people's homes and still do installs where they're working with us and we're helping them. And that's been really great because we're learning different ways to talk about technology again. We're using different images and creating different materials and resources that help have that conversation of people of all different tech levels. And then we do have older customers that need new internet that are immunocompromised, that before we just had to be really clean. Now we have a way of installing them without ever going into the house. So in the future, we expect to use this process, not all the time, but there will be times that this is exactly what we need to do to keep both sides safe. So it's nice having, you know, this has created new fractions of processes in the way we do things. And I have to say, for our staff, it's been amazing how flexible everybody's been when we change a process for the third time that day. You know, not a third time that week, but that day, because every new little bit of information we get, we're having to adapt to. And I know every other business is too. If it's just you're adapting. If it's you and one other person, you're adapting, communicating, relaying, and making it all work yet again. So that flexibility, the other analogy that I've heard a lot lately is talking about hustle. And, you know, it's all about hustle. It's not about driving yourself to the bone. It's really about flexibility and adaptability. And, you know, us rural folks, that's what we do. You can put together anything with baling wire and duct tape, and we'll figure it out.
I'm filing that away so I can call you in case I need something fixed. If you can fix anything with some wire and duct tape, but that's, I think, really important to know. And I think that ability to deal with ambiguity that's all we're doing right now. I think about some of the
That's
first
normal right now.
yeah, some of the first conversations I had with the SBA in regards to funding, a week later was a completely different story, and it's so frustrating. But that's the world that we live in, and so I think that's important to kind of highlight. I like to leave things with a positive note, because I am a believer that in every obstacle there is a huge opportunity. And so I'd like to hear from you. What are you hopeful about, and what are you excited about for the future?
Oh, so many things. I am excited of so many things.
Oh, good.
Some of it is just new technology that we're getting to try out. We're putting it in the field faster than we ever could. Some of it is new sites that are opening up. And one is a silver lining of a scary cloud. I know right now we're in spring and everything is blooming and we're more worried about allergies, but I know right around the corner is fire season and we're going to have PSPSs, and we've all figured out how to stay home and work from home and do things kind of off schedule. Well, we had a trial run at it last year when we were out of power for 3 days. We're going to be doing the same thing again. This time we're going to walk into that with our heads held high, not as scared of how are we going to handle it, because we know we've done it. I think all of the infrastructure companies like mine, we're all gearing up for more generators, more batteries, more monitoring. So things like the internet don't go down even if power does. Yeah. Well, it's amazing what you can do when you have that connection. I know cell companies are doing the same. So we're all kind of figuring out that different things. So sometimes I never hope that this is the dress rehearsal for something bigger, but I think that we actually had the dress rehearsal. This is kind of what's going on, and it hopefully never becomes old hat, but we are all shown that strength and that flexibility that we have.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's very exciting. And as a local business, we really appreciate you sharing it, and we appreciate your service and your really serving the community as a whole. I know I've mentioned in several webinars that I've done before, people have asked how they can access Wi-Fi, and I've said, oh, go into the Starbucks parking lot or go to Conifer in San Andreas, because you'll get Wi-Fi access.
Back up the truck, use your cab as your office. It's right there. We're expanding it. We were going to expand it downtown before the crawfish or the
Raging Cajun.
Of course, everything got a little delayed. It'll still be there, so it'll even be bigger for Calaveras down San Andreas. We're hoping as we go forward, we just got some news and we're hoping to do something similar in McCollum Hill and a couple of other, and same thing with Mountain Ranch. So in those smaller downtowns, expect that sort of connection. It's not fast as you can at home, but you know what? You can run a Zoom call on it. You can send in homework. You can get those things done. And those sites will be open whether there's power or not. So going forward, those things will be there. So, we all looked at those crisis centers that were in like the park and Angels and stuff, and up in Mountain Ranch and Leslieville when we had the PSBSs. I think as a community, we're more prepared, and we'll have them, as well as counting on PG&E to have stuff like that for us. So it won't be a frantic, where do I go? It'll be like, oh, I just go down the street. It'll be okay.
Right.
So we'll get there.
Yeah, it's exciting. It is exciting to think about the future there. Well, Sonja, thank you so much for joining me for this chat, and for sharing some of your knowledge with us, because I'm sure I'm not the only one out there that needs this broken down for you. So I appreciate it.
And if anything was confusing, ask questions. I'll be happy to clarify and elaborate or simplify, or however I can.
What's the best way to stay in touch with Conifer?
So our phone number is #1, and it's 866-378-8393. You can get to that by Googling. We have 2 offices, one in Groveland, one in Calaveras County. It's all the same phone number. So that is our one and only phone number. So that's the one you're looking for. And then there's always our website, and there's also an email, which is mail@conifercom.net. So You can also, if you see one of our trucks, flag us down. We'll pop on our masks and talk to you. We'll be there, or the Jeeps, same thing. So
And you guys
we're
are on
around.
Facebook?
We are on Facebook, yeah. Conifer Communications on Facebook. We answer messages there, direct or otherwise. So
Awesome.
we're on Twitter, but I really think I mostly follow food trucks on it. So don't really pay attention.
That's actually really important too.
I agree. I had taco truck today for lunch. It was fabulous.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining. We're putting her contact information below. If you have any questions, she'll follow up too. Write your below, and Sonja will reach out to you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Sonja, thanks so much for joining. Everyone, stay well and healthy.
Bye, everyone.